So I'm going to carry on talking about expanding on the transformation that having a celebrant will give you. There's a flurry at the moment. I saw a post from one of my celebrant mates that said, Fox and Stars actually, she posted, she was like, number 6 couple have been we sort of get gazumped by the registrar, I guess, because the registrars are now pitching that they come with a celebrant like ceremony. We're like, oh, ceremony like. And they're going for the simplicity factor, which works for a lot of people. A lot of people just want a simple life and are like, yeah, fine, I can get married at my wedding. Yes, there are restrictions. Yes, it comes with a few. You can't do this, you can't do this. But at the end of the day, all for an easy life. Fine. But they're not wanting a transformation. They're not thinking 2 years ahead, 5 years ahead, 2 minutes ahead. I've asked so many of my couples, do you remember the last wedding you went to? They're like, yeah. I was like, what do you remember? They're like, the party. I was like, do you remember the ceremony? They're like, nope. I was like, what do you remember feeling about the ceremony? And they are all, obviously, they're registrar weddings that they've been saying, and not. They're like, you go, just sort of look at the watch and go, yeah, get this bit over, and then we're free. And if you're going to a wedding, the ceremony is the heart of the day, and it's just so disappointing and saddens my soul that people just sort of see the ceremony as the annoying in betweeny bit, from getting ready to having a party. Like, oh, you got to do the thing, got to do the thing. And I was like, yeah, the thing, the wedding. It should be amazing. And if you have the celebrant led wedding, you get that transformation that you can't really get from a registrar. You get that huge sense of ownership. You get that sense of it belongs to you. When I say ownership, you absolutely own your wedding. And a registrar won't give you that transformation. I know I've got lots of celebrants on here, so thanks guys, thanks for joining. We offer that transformation. It's a transformation that's important, because my wedding was, what, I know, 12 years, 13 years. And people will still say, such an awesome wedding, such an awesome wedding. I mean, I did get married in a church, but because I grew up in that church, because the vicar knew me, yes, we had a few restrictions, as in we had to have one Bible reading and we could have a non-Bible reading. But that was fine with me because I wanted scripture, because I love scripture. I think, I don't know, love scripture, and I'm quite theological. I like the theological side of religion as well as a bit of ceremony. I like a bit of ceremony. But with, and I didn't know celebrants existed 13 years ago. I mean, who did? And what's the other nice transformation, particularly with my clients, is most of my clients had a sort of churchy upbringing, as in they went to a church school and they are christened, but actually it doesn't really play a part in their life, and it feels a bit awkward, them thinking, oh, maybe I should trot along to the church and I've asked if I can get married there. But they still want that sense of culture and still want that kind of transformation of going, really enjoyed walking up the aisle, and I do remember my wedding and it meant something to me. And a celebrant wedding, particularly one of mine, will give you ownership of it. Some celebrants don't send you the script, which I find a bit odd. I'm like, it's not your wedding, it's their wedding. Send them the script completely. Some celebrants are like, no, they trust me. Yeah. I was like, oh my goodness. But each their own. For me, I completely send the script completely. And because I used to be in theatre, I do it with stage directions. Because I've always managed as a worst case scenario, which I know sounds odd, but when I used to run theatre, it was in London, so we could be halfway through cashing up 16 tills from the interval and then have a fire drill. And you're like, ah! And I've got thousands of pounds out on the table. So I always managed as though the alarm's about to go off or about to hit crisis. And I always sort of manage my scripts like that. So if I'm on the way, I did a live, probably this time last year, about catastrophizing and how I catastrophize. Because catastrophe can happen. With my other hat on, when I'm doing funerals, sometimes catastrophe has happened. And if I'm on the way to a ceremony and I have a car crash and I can't get there, they're not going to stop the wedding just because I can't get there. But it doesn't. It's okay. Having a celebrant, particularly me, with my skills, obviously, I am absolutely making sure that it's failure proof. It will not fail, even if I don't make it because something hideous has happened. Because the scripts I write and the practice we have and the contact we have means somebody can step in. You can have a Joey from Friends. It will still happen. So I tend to catastrophize in that way, but I'll over-prepare. I will have a plan and a plan and a plan, because that's just the way I work. Because I'm used to working in theatre with 1,300 public in a space and anything can happen. And in a wedding, you've got all those people and anything can happen. And in a funeral, you could have 2 dead bodies in a room all of a sudden because somebody's collapsed. And you're like, oh, right, I'll just deal with that. When that's happened, I said, oh, best friend stealing his thunder. And underneath I'm going, holy moly, someone's just collapsed. But I deal with it because that's what I'm used to doing with. So having that transformation, you will get with a celebrant, because we can incorporate your faith, your background, your culture, your style completely. It's not in a church. You do have a sense of freedom. Of course you do. You can wear what you like, pick. Well, it does depend on the vicar. I've had couples come to me who wanted to get married in a church, but the vicar has said, here are the readings you'll have. Here are the hymns you can sing. And which kind of caught them out. So like, I thought we could pick our own hymns. So it does. I guess what I'm saying, for me particularly, I'm not a humanist celebrant. I'm an independent celebrant. A humanist celebrant is independent in complete thinking, in that it's 2 humans and they've met, lovely, end of story. Whereas my clients are more spiritual, not in a floaty way, but in a way that they think there is something bigger, and they were brought up thinking there was something bigger. They might not practice that or developed it or particularly questioned the philosophy about it, but they don't want to not make space for faith. And if Granny Pip wants to say a prayer at the end, then lovely jubbly, she can do that. And then you absolutely own your day. You own it. And people will be like, oh my God, your ceremony was amazing. And everyone feels loved and everyone is happy, and it's just brilliant. There's nothing more disheartening than a dull wedding that everyone has heard before. And I had 3 couples last year, I think it was. One couple came because they decided to jump ship from a registrar and was like, yeah, no, we're not doing it. Because they realised they wanted Granny Pip to say something and they wanted a bit of a sing-along, and the registrars were like, yeah, no, sorry. They're like, oh. I had another couple come to me because they had booked a registrar and were all fine and happy with it, gone to a wedding, and they were like, wow, I lost count of the amount of times they said legal. This is legally binding. It's legally instilled in me. And with legally did it, and they were like, oh my God, talk about stealing the magic. So they came to me because they wanted it to feel magical and unique and bespoke, because it was. Oh, is that children coming up? No, it's grown up. So with that photo shoot that I did on the grid with the young couple, they're a real couple. And Constance, who's Mrs. T Weddings, she's going to be joining me next week to talk about that shoot and her experience of working with celebrants, and why she loves it so much. Hang on a minute. Joe? I'm doing a live. Can you be a bit quieter with the tools, please? Thank you. Anyway, and how, oh, oops. I went to a wedding last year led by a registrar who welcomed, I guess there's more coming. Sorry, I've read it before you finished reading. That's Steph. Hi, Steph. Hello, hello. Hayley, you're on. Thanks so much. Hayley, are you still on? Are you still with me? If you are, what made you pick a celebrant rather than a registrar? See if. Oh, hi, James. Nice to see you. You waved at Miss. Yes, I did wave. Hi, James. Yeah. Oh, good. You are still on, Hayley. So, what made you? Oh, who welcomed the couple by name and then for the rest of the ceremony called them bride and groom. Yes. Yes. They're so worried about saying the wrong name that they say it once and then for the rest of the time they have, go to bed, please. I'll come and say goodnight in a minute. For the rest of the time, they just refer to them as bride and groom. I have seen registrars have post-it notes and then peel it off and peel it off and peel it off. I also know a couple of registrars and I was like, I've heard some horror stories, what's going on? And she's like, it's just manic because they're not in charge of their own time. You know, they're council workers essentially, and they are told, go here at this point, then you go here, then you go here, and then you go here. So they're just kind of thrown in the deep end. They're just thrown in the deep end. And as a bride, why would you want that? Why would you want to risk that? You don't get the transformation, and it's all about absolutely owning your ceremony. Registrars are muddying the waters, I guess, in saying that you can have a celebrant like wedding, and why wouldn't you want to get married on your wedding? And that works for some people because they just want an easy life. If, however, pillars like style, ownership, making good memories, personalising, and enjoying your wedding, I should write those down. I'll have to watch this back and see what they were. No, gone. Style, personalise, ownership, enjoyment. Can't remember the fifth one. If those pillars are important to you, then sometimes you put in a little bit of effort because it's an exchange of energy. If you want to get that sense of energy back, put the energy in. Think for more than 20 seconds. When a venue says, and when's your wedding? And you go, 18th of August. And they say, and when you book the registrar, you can say, oh, it doesn't matter. We're going to have our wedding here. We're going to get married and sort it out separately. The venues don't need to know when you're getting married. They need to know when you want your wedding. They're not a marriage venue. They're a wedding venue. You see? It doesn't matter when you get married. I have couples going, oh, we managed to get married in lockdown, but we still want to have a wedding. Can you still make it authentic? Yes, because you're really going to turn up and you're really going to say your vows and you're really going to have a magical transformation and you're really going to own it and everyone's going to have a really goddamn good time. Can you tell I love what I do? Gives you ownership, and if style is important to you and making it bespoke and owning your day thoroughly without missing this weird half hour where people seem to want to go, getting run's fun, getting ready is really fun, having the party's really fun, this is awkward in between you bit called the wedding. If the wedding is important to you on your wedding day, you're in the right place. Stick with the celebrant. Right, lots to love. Take care. Bye.